Well, yesterday morning we had woke up about 6:30 and then heard some noise, like a loud vehicle, and I thought it was my son, and it wasn't my son. It was a neighbor's truck was stolen. Anyways, we just heard a really loud noise, and my daughter opened the door and seen this big old puff of cloud of dust. Seen this truck just speeding down. It was the neighbor's truck. So anyways, and then a little while later, we went down there and they called the police, and they showed up, and Law came out there, and he ended up taking a report of the lost vehicle, and so we went home. About a couple hours later, my dog Archie, he just was sniffing around and just barking, and John was like, what is going on here? And so then he went out to the shed and opened the door, because that's where the dog was at, and then he opened the door and yelled for me to call 911 because there was a baby in there. And I was like, hold on a minute. And he yelled again, call 911, there's an infant in here. So then we ended up going, I went out there, called 911, and I was freaking out. And then I looked at this little baby just looking up at me, and then they gave me permission to pick her up, and it was a little girl, and I just wrapped her in a towel and ended up just taking her up and just holding her and just making sure she was okay and safe. And it was just a pretty traumatic experience, and poor little baby was just went right to sleep in my arms. And then we called them, and the ambulance got there, and they showed up and picked the baby up and put her in there, and they took her and life flighted her to Houston. And that's about all we know right now. And
the baby said to have broken leg.
Yeah.
How was the baby? Did it act like the baby was in pain at all, or just?
No, she was exhausted. She was just laid her head on my chest and went right to sleep. She just laid her head down. She was tired.
All this time seeing this baby there, and then what's going on? What was running through your mind?
All kinds of things. I don't know how people can just, leave their, I don't know, just all kinds of emotions. Like, I'm a mom, and just how can someone just leave a baby right there and just run and abandon it and just leave it? And it was just pretty traumatic. But yeah, all kinds of things running through my head. What happened to her? Did something bad happen to her? Just a little bit of everything, and if it was a kidnapper, if it was who the guy was that took her and put her there, just all kinds of things running through my head.
How she got in your shed?
That, I guess, we looked on the surveillance tape, and she was in there. I mean, the guy had carried her in there. We got it on the fence where he was opening the gate and put her in there. It was just horrible. So I can't even explain my feelings. Just can't explain.
What do you?
Yeah, John. Okay, now tell me, dog was barking, and you went out.
Usually the dog gets stirred up a little bit and barks towards the front gate, and this time the dog happened to be barking back between the shed, and I thought, well, maybe somebody else is back there behind the gate or coming off the railroad tracks or something. And when it was barking, I turned around and said, well, I better go check it. I went outside, and the dog was barking, and when I got down by the shed, he was barking towards the shed. And I was like, well, that's different. I wonder what's right there. And I was looking down up under the shed a little bit. About that time I heard a cry, and that's when I opened the door. And when I opened the door up, there was a baby laying there on its belly right there. We had a little motorcycle, and it was laying between it and a file cabinet over on the side of the ground, right there on the floor of the shed. And I turned around and told my wife to call 911. There was a baby in there, and she was like, what are you talking about? She thought I meant something else. I said, it's an infant, call 911. So whenever she called 911, we wouldn't touch her until we got permission from them to be able to move the baby, pick the baby up, and comfort her. And that's whenever she carried her back up to the house, wrapped her with a towel, and she just fell asleep in her arms.
What did you think when you first saw the child?
When I opened it up, it was just like, what was that moving? And then, I seen her right behind the motorcycle. It was a little hard. When I seen her, I was like, oh my God, that's a little baby laying there. This guy, which we had already seen him on surveillance, so we knew he had been there. And it was like, did this guy kidnap this baby and just throw her in my shed, or what's wrong with the baby? Because she was just laying down there looking up. She wasn't crying or acting like she was hurt or anything
Did you
at
see
the
him come in
time.
the gate on the security video or not when he came in?
Well, not right away. Whenever we heard that truck, what alerted me to all of it is, I said, man, that looked like my neighbor's truck in the video right there. And when I had backed the camera up to see the truck on video, I seen somebody walk by the gate that left our vehicle. So I backed it up a little further, and I watched this guy go through all of our vehicles trying to get in them. So he'd went to like my company truck, my son's truck. And I had another older work truck over there. He'd went through like 4 vehicles trying to get one before he went over and got his. And so, you know, we pretty much had knew this guy was there. But nothing ever alerted us till we got the police there to do the first report, and then they made mention of a possible guy getting hit by the train. So all that just sort of went with the theft of the truck and figured it was over with. And it was about 3 hours later before I found the baby and all that, so it all started over again, you know.
The police were out there once already.
Yes, they had already been there on the stolen vehicle. It was you know, and we'd already looked at the footage there, and I didn't back up as far because he didn't go in till like 3:30 in the morning, and we were backing up to about 6:20 whenever the you know, the truck was stolen. So we were backing up to about 6 in the morning. He was all around our vehicles to about 6:30 to 7, you know.
And when they found him, police alerted you that they had found him, and there's possibly a second child with it.
Yes, there was a little bit of some mention of could have been a second possible child. So we went through all the shed, went through all of our belongings around there, up in the boats and back of the trucks, and we was searching and just making sure that there wasn't any that he was making mention of a second child versus just the first child that he brought in there and dropped off.
Now, how far was his truck? When
His
he
truck
crashed out at.
I would probably say, you know, it could be straight away through there, half mile to a mile, probably a little more, half mile,
tracks,
3/4.
just kind of close to the tracks, and the tracks are basically right over the hill, right behind your house.
Yes, they're behind my house, but he was still on, there's no road from our subdivision that he has to come around through town over there where he was at, and then walk down the railroad tracks over a trestle over the creek and get down there to our house. So it was a little walk on rocks and gravel. And
probably barefoot at the time too.
Yes, he was actually on video, you know, with just in his underwear and socks. So I mean, I'm sure it was a rough walk through there.
Now your son said there was also some blood on his truck.
Yes.
Getting in.
Well, at first, you know, when they made mention about the guy getting hit by a train, and they had them deputies and stuff looking for somebody out there early that morning, that's whenever we took them down there and showed them where they had leaned against his truck and had a little blood specks and stuff where he was leaning against it. So they took a little sample then, but that was before the baby. So they just thought he was cut, didn't know anything else.
Now once the baby was found, there was a little bit of blood there too. Was that from the child or was that?
No, that was from him actually, where he either sat right there with the baby or leaned over to set her down or whatever. He was right there. He had leaned against like an old file cabinet and left some a big spot of blood, not big, but enough that they pulled the DNA or pulled a blood
baby
sample.
Still had a diaper on at the time when you found him?
No.
Didn't have a diaper on?
No, just a dress.
So no blood on the, was a dress on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think? I mean, think of now after all this, it's hard to believe almost.
Yeah, I mean, it was just like, what has happened here, you know? We never really have that much happen around there. We've been there 28 years, and it's always been pretty quiet with things, nothing ever messed with, and it's like all of a sudden we're starting to get some trouble around here. This guy's trying to steal a vehicle or two, you know, we're out at first, and then all of a sudden now we're finding out, hey, here's somebody had a baby, and with everything that's going on nowadays, it's like, oh man, did somebody kidnap somebody's child and, you know, abduct it and try to sell or injure it and just drop it off on us? Or
what was the police's reaction when they first got there?
Oh, they just didn't know what the heck neither. I mean, they were sitting there going, you know, I guess trying to figure out what all they needed to start going with and report. And the first thing, like I say, it's a good thing we reported the truck stolen ahead of time, because they had already put an alert out on the truck. And about that time, I think it was right when we was doing that report, they already had a hit that the truck was down in another county. So they had actually already, had a jump on him without him getting away for a long time.
So you're saying the report for the stolen truck or the baby?
The report for the stolen truck had him pretty much caught before they found out,
Right.
it was him and the baby there.